Welcome back to the channel bringing you the latest news from around the world. Are you worried about your job, your business, or your investments? You need to hear this. The news didn't come from a press conference but a single explosive social media post. On July 7, 2025, America woke up to steep new tariffs on Japan, South Korea, Malaysia, and more, effective in less than a month. In boardrooms, panic set in. Supply chains, forecasts, and business plans were instantly in chaos. The trade war was no longer a distant threat. It had arrived with a vengeance. Financial officers scrambled to assess the damage. 25% tariffs on auto parts, 50% on steel and aluminum, and now, a new wave targeting key partners. The choices were brutal: absorb the costs, pass them to consumers, or shut down production lines. The next day, President Trump announced a 50% tariff on all copper imports, sending prices soaring and crippling companies reliant on the metal. The justification: national security, a phrase unleashing economic disruption on a massive scale. Legal challenges were coming, but the damage was immediate. The stock market finally buckled. The Dow, Nasdaq, and S&P 500 all plunged. Wall Street's message: this was unsustainable. The global trade system that let American companies compete was being dismantled. The promise was to bring jobs back, but the reality was turmoil, uncertainty, and economic fear. The shockwaves were just beginning. For Ford, GM, and Stellantis, the tariffs were a direct hit. Their global supply chains shattered overnight as costs for auto parts, steel, and aluminum soared. Building a Ford F-150 or Chevy Silverado suddenly cost thousands more per vehicle. Ford and GM pulled their financial forecasts, admitting they couldn't predict the fallout. Stellantis cut U.S. production, slowing assembly lines and reducing shifts, hurting the very workers tariffs were meant to protect. The logic was simple: higher costs meant higher prices or layoffs. Some companies even considered moving production abroad to dodge tariffs. The pain rippled outward. Suppliers, truckers, and dealerships all felt the shock. Small businesses lost orders, truck drivers had fewer cars to move, and dealerships faced angry customers and shrinking inventories. The tariffs, meant to help, were instead driving jobs and investment away. Detroit's pain became America's pain. The trade war battered more than just automakers. It hit American icons. Harley-Davidson, targeted by EU retaliation, moved production of key models to Thailand to avoid tariffs. An American legend, forced overseas by US policy. Caterpillar, the construction giant, faced hundreds of millions in losses from tariffs on steel and components. To survive, they too considered shifting production abroad. These weren't companies chasing cheap labor, they were escaping a hostile business environment at home. The very policies meant to protect American industry were driving it out. The message was clear: tariffs were punishing, not protecting US champions. Tariffs didn't just hit factories, they hit your wallet. Walmart, built on low prices, faced soaring costs and passed them to customers. Prices rose, choices shrank, and families paid more for basics. The average US household lost about $1,000 a year in purchasing power. Nike, with most shoes made in Asia, hiked prices by up to $10 per pair. Fewer discounts, higher costs, direct results of tariffs. Other brands like PepsiCo, Target, and Procter & Gamble warned of slowing demand and cut profit forecasts. As prices climbed, families bought less, retailers sold less, and factories produced less. The result: a slowdown engineered by domestic policy. Tariffs became a hidden tax, draining wallets and stalling the economy. Everyday Americans paid the price. The pain was everywhere, from checkout lines to kitchen tables. America's trade war triggered swift retaliation from allies like Canada and the EU. They targeted US agriculture, soybeans, corn, bourbon, hitting where it hurt most. China, once the top buyer of US soybeans, stopped almost all purchases. Crop prices crashed, farm incomes dried up, and silos filled with unsold grain. The heartland, promised protection, suffered the worst. Canada, once America's top trading partner, slashed its US trade share and sought new partners in Europe and Asia. American businesses lost markets, possibly for good. The cycle was vicious. US tariffs raised costs, foreign tariffs killed demand. Manufacturers like Caterpillar faced higher input costs and fewer export sales. Farmers got less for crops and paid more for equipment. The strategy backfired, weakening America's economic standing. Retaliation didn't just hurt exports, it rewrote global trade relationships. Allies diversified away from the US, leaving American workers and industries isolated. The wounds were self-inflicted. The world moved on, leaving American farmers and manufacturers behind. The final bill for the trade war? Economic pain, not renewal. Iconic companies cut US jobs or moved overseas to survive. Manufacturing giants lost hundreds of millions, not from bad business but from hostile policy. Ordinary families paid more for everything, losing $1,000 a year in buying power. Retaliatory tariffs closed off markets built over decades. Allies turned elsewhere, eroding America's influence and global standing. The tariffs failed to bring back jobs. Instead, they caused layoffs and drove investment away. America grew weaker, not stronger. The real cost is paid daily by workers, consumers, and businesses, footing the bill for a reckless economic experiment. The lesson: protectionism comes at a steep, unnecessary price.